They talking all of this madness, talking all of this madness, talking all of this madness. They talking all of this madness, talking all of this madness, talking all of this madness. They talking all of this madness.
What's going on, everybody? You are watching, you are listening to the Matt Madness Network live on YouTube. I'm your host, Alo and Lloyd. Clap it up, clap it up. Thank you. So, what's going on in the world? Let's see. Aaron Solo fumbled Fallon. Yes, Liv Morgan went public with her boyfriend on the internet. And before I can even get a clip out, Sami Zayn dropped the WWE Championship.
This isn't even a pay-per-view!
So, what's been going on, guys? So, it is just me again tonight for you guys. And as always, guys, make sure you guys subscribe on all podcast platforms and subscribe to the YouTube channels. Anything for the algorithm, thumbs up, like, turn your post notifications, and comment as well. Any comments, share will be on stream, and we'll have a conversation. We'll definitely have a conversation. So, what's been going on, guys? So in the last couple of weeks, I haven't watched a bunch. Last week I took off, but I haven't watched a bunch of things other than what I need to for the stream. But I did watch this. If you guys remember that Eric Andre was on Raw Monday night and got attacked by Roman Reigns and Jigga Fatu. And while he was doing that, he was also promoting his movie Little Brother. And that's what I did watch. Little Brother, it starred Eric Andre, John Cena, Michelle Monaghan. And I thought it was a great movie. It was really fun. I think John Cena is definitely I think John Cena is definitely a very underrated comedic actor. I love his comedic timing. He plays an excellent straight man. And I really did enjoy the movie. You guys will pop at something specifically John actually does in the movie, and I hope, and you would never think John Cena would do it, but only John Cena can actually pull that off. But I think him and Eric Andre, I think they had amazing chemistry, and I think that everybody should check this movie out. It's definitely a good time. It's definitely also always comedy is subjective, but I always think that you guys should give these kind of movies a chance. So that's Little Brother with Eric Andre and John Cena on Netflix. Here's the poster for you guys to check out. And I definitely highly recommend everybody watching that. Definitely a fun time. And I'm not sure if you guys also watch this show either, but another show that I have been into, and that is Bar Rescue. So Bar Rescue is a show where bars that are struggling, they reach out for some help, and they reach out to someone named John Taffer. And John Taffer, he goes around, helps these bars out, and gets them back into prime position to get them to be profitable. These bars, they're down 50 to hundreds of thousands of dollars at a time. And also an episode of Bar Rescue from a wrestling perspective, I saw Mercedes Moné pop up. So Mercedes Moné, she was on an episode of Bar Rescue. Also on the show, they have decoys they send in because they're staking out the place early on the show, and they tend to have, well, not tend to have, but they do have people go in and test the food out and see how everything is actually being prepared and done. And Mercedes Moné, she was one of the decoys in this episode. And John Taffer runs in and he tells her to immediately do not eat this food. It's not done. It's not prepared properly. And that was all we really saw of Mercedes in the episode. But I definitely did watch that. I definitely really did enjoy it. So if anybody, let me know in the chat if you guys actually do watch Bar Rescue. So before we get to anything else, not much daily current topics tonight, but let's address the elephant in the room. As I said at the top of the show, before I could even get a clip out, Sami Zayn, he dropped the WWE Championship to CM Punk, a returning CM Punk at that. So CM Punk, he made his triumphant return. We have not seen him since the Raw after WrestleMania, but after he had the interaction with Cody Rhodes. and Cody Rhodes was attacked early in the night by Gunther, and that is when Adam Pearce said, "Know what, Sammy, you are still defending the WWE Championship no matter what." And we got to return to CM Punk. And to many people's surprise, CM Punk became the WWE Champion.
This isn't even a pay-per-view!
Gotta love that soundbite. So CM Punk defeats Sami Zayn in Sami Zayn's first title defense in 9 days, and the internet essentially was in an uproar. We got a bunch of angry tweets from the likes of Becky Lynch. We got this from MJF. MJF, he posted this, and we also got a lot of CM Hogan memes. We got that popped up on the screen for us over the last few days after watching CM Punk defeat Sami Zayn. And a lot of people are also comparing him to The Rock because CM Punk is essentially becoming what he didn't want to be and what he stood against, and that is somebody who comes in after being gone X amount of months and wins the title. Now, everybody, I said, was happy for Sami Zayn when he won the championship. I was not here last week, so I did not really have able to get my perspective on Sami Zayn winning, but I thought Sami Zayn winning was actually very interesting and a complete shocker because I would have never thought that Sami Zayn would become the WWE champion. Never thought they would do it, but they actually did it. And right here in this image right here, you see Kevin Owens Sami Zayn along with Kevin Owens and Becky Lynch. They were notably happy for him, and they sent out tweets. Listen, the wrestling fandom, the wrestlers, the fans, they were all behind Sami Zayn becoming the WWE champion, and they definitely did get a kick out of it. And they also were quick to tell us how they felt about it. Becky Lynch specifically said that Sami Zayn was robbed. We had Kevin Owens post a picture of the boogeyman, and we also had Sami Zayn crashing out. I'm not sure if I could play it because I don't want him to get copyrighted, but we got Sami Zayn crashing out. After Raw Monday night, after the championship was lost by Sami Zayn. Let's see if I can get this off. Let's see if I can get this off. I'm curious. Let's try it. Let's try if I can get this off.
How is it that after 24 years of crawling and inching for every little inch to get the WWE Championship, after I finally get it, 9 days after I get it, that piece of can walk back in here after not being here for months, and waltz right in and get it? Get a chance?
All right, we'll stop it right there just in case I don't get flagged. We'll stop that right there. So, as I said, a lot of people, they were very happy for Sami Zayn, and they kept the same energy and were very disappointed in the post of it. We said Becky Lynch, she was quick to sit there. She was quick to give her 2 cents about the situation, and she was very upset for Sami Zayn. As I said, Sami Zayn is very beloved by his peers. He's beloved by wrestling fans, and everybody was legit upset. Like, look at this. Like, for real. Like seriously, look at this. Like, you'll see like how people really feel about Sami Zayn. Right here, we got Becky Lynch saying Sami was robbed. If we go somewhere, we go back to Kevin Owens' Twitter page, you'll see that Kevin Owens. Let me see here. We'll see what Kevin Owens had to say. Kevin Owens, he posted the picture of the boogeyman, which I thought was actually pretty funny and interesting, as you guys can see right here. And Kenta was also one that saying, I don't like this. But it was definitely something interesting to think about because a title change like that, like everybody, when Sami Zayn won, everybody was already booking him to lose. Everybody was speculating that he would drop the title to Brock Lesnar, and Brock Lesnar would be the one to take the title off of him, and that ended up being Obafemi's championship match. And that's how Obafemi would get his championship match because Obafemi said he'll worry about the title later and he'll take care of Brock Lesnar right now. So also, people who have also been covering this, one of my favorite shows it is becoming one of my favorite shows, and that's good old Vince Russo and Jonathan Coachman. And they had this to say about Sami Zayn dropping the championship to CM Punk.
Stickers coming in, and we'll get to all of them as soon as we can. So Vince, this is the first day, and you and I have been clipped off everywhere. All these wrestling sites that clip our stuff, because we have been kind of the Sami Zayn show, whether or not he delivered, deserved it or not. And we said on Monday, if they clip him and they take it away after 9 days, you've got to feel bad for him. Not only did they bring CM Punk back, they then, Vince, made him do a social media video where he was upset at the opportunity that CM Punk had to then beat him and become the undisputed champ. Let's start with the 9-day run. How unfair or fair was that?
Well, Coach, I think the bigger issue for me is, and again, everybody knows I look at everything from a writing perspective, and you brought this up on our last show. Now, keep in mind, on our last show, Sami was still the champion. Yep. You brought this up on our last show. You got to go back to Sami's promo on SmackDown, where it was, and I told you so promo. That was the promo. I can come out here and say this, and I can come out here and say that, and I'm going to come out here. It wasn't I told you so promo. Coach, when I write, you got to protect the talent.
Always.
So, Sami going out there and cutting an I told you so promo and losing the title 3 days after that. Yes, Sami, they were right. They were 100% right. And if I'm writing.
So a lot of people, they give me flack for actually still listening to Vince Russo. I don't listen to him all the time, but I will say this: a lot of their takes I do agree with. Do I think their way of going about things is dated? Absolutely. But as from a writing perspective, and when it comes to things like this, I 100% agree. The fans were right about this. So let's continue.
That show, and I know I'm switching the title, taking the title off of Sami in 3 days. Coach, he's not cutting that promo.
Thank you. That was my question.
It absolutely buries him. I told you so. I told you so. I told you so. Now I lost it 3 days later. That buries the talent, Coach.
What was the line that he used on SmackDown? You can kiss my ass. For all of you that thought you can kiss my ass. That's what he said multiple times. So, Vince, do you think either A, they didn't tell him and tried to play it off on Monday like, hey, we made this decision over the weekend? Or did they tell him and say, listen, you just got to go along with the process and you've got to do this promo and the social media promo backstage after you lose the title? Or none of the above?
Man, Coach, for their sake, I hope they told him. I hope that he knew. If this is a guy walking into the building on Monday and they're breaking this news to him, that is wrong on every single level. We would have to assume that this was a plan for a little while. It's been Chicago. Everybody's talking about CM Punk. We know Triple H is the king of pops. They did not come up with this over the weekend. They didn't want Punk to beat Cody, so they gave Sami Zayn the belt for 9 months. I would have to believe he cut that promo, and I'm not saying he cut that promo on his own. They may have given him that promo, but I would have to believe he knew exactly what was going to happen in 3 days.
So you just hit something that I'm trying to wrap my head around, and that is they did not want CM Punk to beat Cody. Although that's the match we're headed to for SummerSlam now. At least that's what I believe. So if they wanted Sami to step in, Sami is a very smart guy. We would never take – he's a very, very smart guy. And genuinely, Vince, because these are human beings, I feel bad for him. As a human being, as a talent, as a person who's been in pro wrestling for over 20 years, I feel bad for him because you realistically, even though the title is a way to get to some place, it's still real in the moment to the talent. You still earned something. You still, man, I put in the time. I put in, and they're going to put the strap on me, and I'm going to be at the top of the business for 9 days. And when you think
Coach is right here. So for somebody like Sami Zayn, who's had this long journey from the independents to NXT to WWE, guys like that, this moment actually does mean something here. And with this championship match and him losing the title, it's kind of like a slap in the face. So I 100% agree with him. Like I said, everybody was so happy for Sami Zayn when he won the championship, and everybody was just as upset when he did lose the championship just 9 days later. Let's continue.
Like that. Boy, my goodness. In his hotel room, when he was by himself on Monday night, don't you believe in some kind of way that he had to be sitting there going, damn, did I really deserve that?
Especially when you ask the why. The why. Here's the why. The pop in Chicago. That's what it was all about, Coach. And if I'm Sammy, yeah, that pisses me off. If we're going to do this for a pop, that is just momentarily. The pop is here and then it's gone. The pop is gone in 5 minutes. The pop is forgotten. If that's what you're going to do it for, yeah, I got an issue with that. Now,
Punk was like, "You guys want me to come back in Chicago, and you want me to lose?" Punk was like,
"No, brother, doesn't work for me."
Let's continue.
Coach, if there was a built-in storyline and, we had a game plan and everybody was on board with the storyline and it was long-term, no problem. But let's be clear about this. They did that for the pop in Chicago.
Now, I brought this up on social media. I don't read my mentions. I happen to be scrolling through, every now and then, and I had a couple of people go, Coach, they didn't do this for the pop at Chicago. This was storyline driven. It just happened to be in Chicago. I didn't respond because I was like, this is so stupid. If this wasn't about Chicago, then you would have waited until Friday on SmackDown on the show that it was supposed to be on. Because it's supposed to be a brand split. This is two completely different universes, two completely different shows. At least that's what they tell us. This was all about Chicago. That's why they had this title on Monday Night Raw. And the casual fan, which you're always telling us, Vince, is the most important one to get to. You now have them interacting with the two biggest titles in wrestling, and it's confusing because they're on the same show now.
All right, so that was Coach and Vince Russo on the Sami Zayn championship reign. So as I discussed, and as they said, that now Cody and CM Punk unofficially are pretty much set for a collision course for SummerSlam. Now, it's interesting to note because this is one thing I will say that I'm very intrigued about. The fact of we haven't heard CM Punk talk, because you have to assume the way CM Punk is, he hears the noise and understands what's going on. Sami Zayn was probably at his least interesting when he won the championship. So now he even has, so now with this short title reign, he's garnered a lot of sympathy, and now CM Punk is hearing all this noise. And now I think CM Punk is hearing everything everybody's actually saying, and that might implement into what he actually has to say on SmackDown Friday night. Now, the fact that we didn't hear him talk, we could get a heel promo out of him. We can get him acknowledged and everything, but also he will eventually face Cody. And the thing is anybody really going to boo the opponent for Cody at this point, because Cody's been so stale? Now, also, Sami Zayn, he cut that promo for that post match, and then Gunther and Cody, they still have something to go about since Gunther did take him out. And now we have to assume that we're going to get a triple threat to see who faces faces Punk at SummerSlam. And now we have to also assume, well, it's pretty much confirmed that it's going to be Cody, not unofficially confirmed, but we all know that it is going to be Cody versus CM Punk at WrestleMania at SummerSlam in a few weeks. So let me know what you guys think about Sami Zayn's short title reign. Let me know what you guys think about CM Punk returning, and let me know what you think there's going to be happening between CM Punk. Well, not CM Punk, but Cody, Gunther, and Sami Zayn to get the CM Punk. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. All right. So, speaking of CM Punk's, well, not CM Punk, speaking of Gunther has had his hands full lately. So, Gunther has had his hands full with SmackDown General Manager Nick Aldis. right after the match at Night of Champions, Gunther and Nick Aldis, they got physical, and Nick Aldis was sent on administrative leave since they got physical. And the interesting part about that is that a lot of people forget that Nick Aldis is a former NWA World Heavyweight Champion. A lot of people forget that he's a former TNA champion. And the fact that he can actually still go. He's not an old guy. Nick Aldis, he's not even 40 yet. And a lot of people forget about it. And the one thing about Nick Aldis is, since he's so young, every time he's come in the ring, he's actually flirted with the idea of getting physical. We kept saying, like, me and Eric kept talking about it. Okay, he's going to face Drew McIntyre. It didn't happen. Okay, he's going to face this guy. It didn't happen because it's, hey, this guy could still go. When Nick Aldis became general manager of SmackDown, he was still pretty much fresh off of wrestling. Like, everybody's like, okay, like, he's going to be the general manager now. He's not going to come in from an in-ring wrestle, do any in-ring. Really, he could still go. He's not even 40 yet. It feels like he's 50 because he's been around forever, but he's not even 40 years old yet. And unless a lot of people forget that he is a former NWA World Champion, and this guy could still go. And I said, him being on administrative leave, this gives him every reason to actually want to go out there and face Gunther. And the one thing about Gunther is, he has been on I don't want to say a downward slope, because the thing with Gunther is, last year he came in with all this, at the end of the last year, he came in with all this momentum. You know, he retired John Cena, retired AJ Styles at the Royal Rumble, and now it seems like everything is pretty much stagnant when it comes to Gunther, because we really didn't get what we expected out of him. And it's really heartbreaking, because I thought Gunther was going to have like some monster heel run and possibly be the world champion at this point, either championship. But we're not getting that out of Gunther. We're getting Gunther's. We're just not getting the monster heel Gunther. We're just not. And it's about, if they have this match, I'm not mad about it at all, because I think their styles will actually work very well together. And I would love to see Nick Aldis in the ring, because, like I said, Nick Aldis is not old at all. Let's see how old Nick Aldis actually is. Nick Aldis is not old at all. Nick Aldis is, I don't think he's 40 yet, guys. Nick Aldis is 39 years old. He'll be 40 on November 6th. Yeah, absolutely. So Nick Aldis, I 100% think will end up facing Gunther at SummerSlam in a few weeks. So let me know what you guys think about the idea of Nick Aldis getting in the ring with Gunther. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below. Again, make sure to thumbs up, turn your post notifications, anything for the algorithm, guys. Make sure you guys do that for me, please. Appreciate it. Is there anybody watching? Comments, all comments will be read live on stream. All right. So also something that happened this past weekend, actually yesterday, something that happened. We got the Dark Side of the Ring Season 7 debut and Dark Side of the Ring Season 7 debut with Jeff Jarrett in the Battle of TNA. And if you guys do not know about Jeff Jarrett in the Battle of TNA, Jeff Jarrett and TNA, they just don't go away. Jeff Jarrett, as you guys know, former son of Jerry Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett, a former multiple time Intercontinental Champion, World Champion, NWA World Champion, TNA Champion, current AEW wrestler, even though he hasn't wrestled 18 months, tremendous podcaster as well. He was once the owner of TNA. And if anybody has watched it, I would love to hear what you guys have to say about this, because I've not watched Dark Side of the Ring in a long time. But this is a 3-part episode, only 2 parts out. The next episode will air next week. But I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was phenomenal. I thought they touched on a lot of things. Dixie is not in these episodes, but I thought they did a great job of breaking down everything from Jeff Jarrett's perspective, and even the upbringing of TNA. I remember watching TNA. I remember when the first episode came on, because I was still living in New York at the time, and I was still in school when the first episode came out, because New York school ends later. So I remember watching it on the hot box. If you know, you know. I remember watching on the hot box and watching guys that, you know, I know from WWE, but I don't see them anymore. I'm not hip to like, oh, WWE released them, they're the contract stuff. I'm not hip to that. I'm a kid. I'm not hip to that. So I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces. And I'm also seeing familiar faces from WCW who weren't brought over from the buyout. Like I saw AJ Styles. Like, okay, I know him. Elix Skipper, I know him. Where they've been? This is where they've been this whole time. So I saw that. I'm like, okay, I like this. And they did a great job showing them building continuously to become what they would be. And I'm not sure if anybody was around or really watching, but about 2006 to like maybe 8, before like Hogan and them came in and Dixie got involved, TNA was pretty much must-watch television. They had the weird spot on a Saturday night, especially like for me, like I was not when I was home at night, it was 10, 11 o'clock night spot. TNA was on. And it's like, okay, wrestling's on, and it did not look bad. The presentation was up to par. It did not look bad. And then a lot of people, like diehards, would say maybe they're better than WWE. At the time, but it's hard to argue if you weren't watching. But the one thing they did hit on was the signing of Kurt Angle and how that actually changed a lot when it came to TNA. And we're going to hear Jeff Jarrett talk about how it was when Jeff Jarrett would sign Kurt Angle to TNA. Fair use.
On the industry.
How did you get Kurt Angle to say yes to TNA?
Man, oh man. How did I get Kurt Angle? I retold this story, but Chris, I could take you in Orlando studios, back lot, in my office where I dressed every trip, my bag, and how I was leaned over it. And Dave Hawk is his business manager. And he said, yeah, Jeff, Kurt is going to be available. And I turned around and looked at him. I said, Dave, I know you wouldn't bullshit me about this. He said, no, I'm not. And I just really could not believe it, because we had begun to have, it was a grind. I mean, we talked about the investor. We talked about moving from the asylum to Orlando, the grind and one step and Spike, and, just the uphill climb. But man, we were having success after success. Our Saturday night ratings.
You just signed Christian.
Yeah. And I used to love to get the Spike email or calls. Kevin K, hey, bud, this is one I got to call you on. This is what we did in the demo. Like, they were super happy. So there was positive momentum coming. And when Dave told me that, I was just like, gotta be kidding me. And then I had to put on my thinking cap, said, okay, we're going to get him. I want him long-term. I don't, want him to, because I had known Hogan had kind of flirted with us off and on multiple times. And I get it. I've been a talent. I get, hey man, if I can use TNA as a leverage to get Vince to up my dollars, I'm going to do it. I didn't fault anybody. But when I knew I had the opportunity and knew that we need to get him 5 years plus, and we did a 5-year with 2 options, I knew that was going to be a challenge, specifically with Bob Carter. I mean, it was going to be, okay, how are we going to do this? And so we had started the process, and Kurt was gung-ho and everything that went with it. And at the lake here, I was at the marina, and hey, voicemail, call me. So I left the marina and walked up in the parking lot, music blaring and all this. I had to get way so I could talk to Bob, and Bob goes, essentially, hey, Jeff, sell me on Kurt Angle. Which I don't say caught me off guard, but I'm like, okay, here we go. And I said, Bob, what's the name of our company? Oh, Total Night. I mean, went through that. I said, if you want a talent that truly personifies a total nonstop action wrestler that is, in my opinion, No BS. I think he is the best wrestler in the world today. That's who we're talking about. He said, okay. So, I mean, he believed in me. And like I said, we had begun to have stack up a few, I'm not saying major blowout wins, but small wins after small wins after small wins.
And then Kurt Angle's a game changer.
It was in so many ways huge for the brand, huge for me personally, as far as, okay, I'm out of the ring. He signed long-term.
And I don't know if it's talked about enough, but Kurt Angle wrestled more years in TNA than anywhere else.
Yes.
Had his best matches there. He'll even tell you that.
Buddy. And when Kurt was on, I mean, incredible. AJ Styles, Abyss, about as far dynamic. I always use those two guys because AJ is high flyer X division and Abyss, the monster Abyss, it goes without saying, is Kurt could have the best match on the card with either guy. And if he needed to wrestle both guys in the same night, he could. Unbelievable cardio conditioning. And so, yeah, Kurt took our brand at the right time. And again, timing's everything. We had this guy that was on a winning streak named Samoa Joe, and that was being built into this killer. And he arrived on, there were so many positives that went into it. Me and Sting.
That was a big deal. Samoa Joe was one of the most talked about wrestlers in the world in TNA at that time. And he was definitely a big deal. And that first interaction between Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe, and Kurt Angle's debut is definitely a must watch if anybody has never seen it.
That match built for months at Bound for Glory. And I was going through with my wife's personal situation. I knew that, okay, I need to figure something out from my personal life that, you know, we knew we were switching the belt to Sting at Bound for Glory. But in the middle of that whole storyline arc, here comes this Kurt Angle opportunity. And then we make Kurt the special enforcer of that match. So he was on the scene when Sting won the title. It was a really magical, not just night, a magical time in TNA.
We've talked a lot about TNA, but you're still doing this. You're still wrestling now. You're in phenomenal shape.
Jeff Jarrett on how they signed Kurt Angle in TNA. And like I said, TNA was one of those things that one of those companies, like they're still around, and they were doing many good things that fell under the radar. In the Dark Side of the Ring, you'll see some of the knockouts on the Dark Side on the episode, Awesome Kong specifically. And I'm glad they put emphasis on the fact that the knockouts, they were main eventing. The knockouts were a focal point of the show before the whole Women's Revolution thing started. We've come a longer way from an in-ring perspective, but TNA was not shy about putting spotlight on the knockouts at all. And also he talked about it was some of his little wins, and some of his wins came at the expense of signing people like Christian Cage. He was Christian in WWE. He leaves WWE in 2005, heads over to TNA, becomes the NWA World Champion, and was a focal point in the growth of TNA on Spike TV. And after that, they got Sting, as he noted, and after that, they got Booker T. Scott Steiner came in the Dark Side of the Ring. You will hear them talking about when Dixie Carter would eventually take over, and Dixie Carter would sign WWE guys, and Jim Cornette would classify them as people who were just looking for a free vacation, well, a paid vacation. So definitely something I highly recommend everybody watching is part 1 and 2, Dark Side of the Ring, the battle for TNA, because it's also available for free on the Vice YouTube channel. And before I move on from topics, I do want to talk about this as well. This is Dixie Carter. They do a great job detailing Dixie Carter interaction. You know, she was a part of the company, but nobody really knew where her family came from, and nobody knew about her family being lucrative and how they're like millionaires. And they discuss later on as she gets more power, as her family takes over, she becomes more power, and greed takes over. Greed. And it's a very interesting thing to hear. And one of the big plot twists was the fact of her not knowing that Jeff and Karen Jarrett were an item, because Karen Jarrett, ex-wife of Kurt Angle, she tells a story that when Kurt came into TNA, they were put on a facade but they had already been separated. They were put on a facade that they were the perfect family because Kurt Angle had just been released from WWE, and he needed to put on this whole thing of being the quote unquote perfect family. And Karen Jarrett went along with it, but they were already separated in 2006 when Kurt Angle would debut in TNA. So definitely looking forward to part 3 and hearing what goes on, because they stop around the Hogan Bischoff signing. So it is very much a very interesting watch. So I highly recommend everybody checking that out if you guys get the opportunity, because Dixie Run the Show is just getting started. If you guys are unaware of what's going on, what happened with TNA and Jeff Jarrett. And I also thought this was crazy as well. The fact that she sends Jarrett home after she finds out about Karen and Jeff. She does that. And then she has the unmitigated gall to sit there and ask Jarrett, hey, I need you to go see Hogan. Jarrett should have been like,
shut up, bitch.
But he didn't. Jarrett's a company guy. He didn't do it. Jeff Jarrett, he's definitely one of the most interesting people in the world of wrestling. I would actually love to interview Jeff Jarrett. Watching him talk and watching him in this gives me a whole new respect on the man. So I highly recommend everybody watching Dark Side of the Ring episode 1 and 2, season 7 episode 1 and 2, with the battle struggle, the power struggle of TNA between Jeff Jarrett and Dixie Carter. So, woo! All right. All right, excuse me, guys. All right, let's get it. Got here banners. Dump that one. All right, so we do this. All right. So if you guys didn't know, Shane McMahon once upon a time almost. Let me do that again. All right. All right, bear with me, guys. All right. All right. If you guys didn't know, Shane McMahon once upon a time almost bought WCW. Paul Heyman was recently on Chris Van Vliet's podcast, and he discussed the fact that Shane McMahon almost bought ECW from under him before ECW would eventually go bankruptcy. Well, file for bankruptcy. So let's go to Paul Heyman to discuss this. Fair use.
pirating their music on the air. Like most record labels, I got a cease and desist. I ignored the cease and desist. Then I got a dunning letter saying, stop this immediately. And by the way, we're preparing to sue you. I went in to meet with them without any lawyers on my side, because if I could afford lawyers, I could afford a settlement. Told them, hey, here's the past year of finances for ECW. We're about to go bankrupt. You sue me, I go into an involuntary bankruptcy. Nothing I can do to help you or help myself. However, I do have this platform, and a lot of people like our show. So if you let me use the music and I give you commercial time on our show, because I own some of the commercial time throughout the syndication of ECW, I can promote your music and you can let me use it and we can both win. And I did that with...
You gotta love Heyman being the ultimate businessman for this, because he didn't care and until he was back against the wall. Let's continue.
A lot of record labels, to the point where in 2000, the biggest behind-the-scenes name in music, Jimmy Iovine, who was the co-chairman of Universal Music Group at the time with Doug Morris, which was Geffen, A&M, and Interscope, all under Universal Music, became the final investor in ECW before we went out of business. In terms of WWE, I had the deal with Tommy Boy Records for $1,000 a week for them to supply us with Whoop, There It Is for Too Cold Scorpio. Every time he came out to the ring, you'd see that MTV-style lower third, Whoop, There It Is by this group, Tommy Boy Records. And then the very next commercial break, in first position, we would either thank Tommy Boy Records while playing Tommy Boy music, or we would have a commercial for the newest release by Tommy Boy Music. $1,000 a week. Vince wanted Doug Furnace, Phil LaFon, Terry Gordy to be the executioner, and he wanted Too Cold Scorpio to come to WWE as Flash Funk. I had no problem with any of those talents going to WWE. My problem was in losing Too Cold Scorpio, I could lose the $1,000 a week from Tommy Boy Records. Vince said, I'll make that $1,000 up to you. Deal. He didn't, his words, don't want to be like WCW, just poach your talent and give you nothing back for it. Want to support the cause. Great. Need $1,000 a week. Okay, great. And if Tommy Boy keeps paying you, you keep that extra grand. Great. The first check came, was in my name. I sent it back. Please make it out to the parent company of ECW, HHG. We got $1,000 a week from November 1996 till we filed for bankruptcy in March 2001. That was the $1,000 a week. In 2000, we got a $500,000 loan in July. The reason behind that was we had gone on TNN in September 1999. Unbeknownst to us, TNN, which was the Nashville network, was becoming the national network. But what we didn't know was that they had already been sold to Viacom, which was the parent company of CBS. Viacom had already cut a deal behind the scenes with WWE for WWE to leave USA Network, which was then owned by Barry Diller, and go to TNN the next September, which became a big federal court case in Delaware. So we were the guinea pig for TNN to be on the air and see how professional wrestling translates on their network, which was undergoing a massive overhaul. I knew 3 weeks into that agreement, this is going to kill us, because all of our commercials, which was supposed to be spread out throughout the week, would air on our own show. So I'm watching the show on Friday nights, and there's our commercials instead of being on Monday nights, Tuesday nights, Wednesday nights, Thursday nights, Saturday nights, Sunday nights. And I called the president of TNN, and I said, why are our commercials airing on our own show? And he said, it's the target demographic. In other words, fuck you, you're out of business. And we're using you, and you don't know why yet. So at some point, it became...
So if you guys don't know, WWE in 2000, they said, well, as Heyman said, that deal with WWE and TNN, that was for $12.6 million. And that was unheard of back in around that time. So let's continue.
Known that WWE was trying to move to TNN. And any analysis of the situation was TNN was the albatross around our neck that was going to sink us. And TNN was a gold mine for WWE because the licensing money for wrestling on television wasn't that great back then. And the tens and tens of millions of dollars that TNN was willing to give WWE was unheard of at the time. It was
12.6.
a huge deal. And at some point in putting us out of business, the bankruptcy trustee was going to end up suing TNN and WWE for having this deal while we were on the air with TNN. Whether it's tortious interference or whatever the claims would have been, it would have been another federal lawsuit against a publicly traded company in WWE. Back in 2000, there was an executive at In Demand whose name I will call out publicly, named Dan York. And Dan York saw the fact that we were fighting for our life in terms of our network distribution on TNN. Knowing that if we lose network distribution, the odds of us staying alive were now slimming down. Our pay-per-view money slowed down as well. So instead of getting all this money 60 days, 90 days after the pay-per-view, we got a little bit 60 days and 90 days after the pay-per-view. And we even got a little less, 120 days and 180 days. We're supposed to be completely paid out by 180 days. We weren't paid out 50% by 180 days. So we weren't getting our money out of In Demand because they figured they could deal with the bankruptcy trustee instead of having to pay us now. They did the same thing to Bob Arum. Bob Arum had the resources to sue and wait a few years to get that settled. We didn't have the time. The clock was ticking on us. We booked a show at the Olympic Auditorium in Los Angeles, Heatwave 2000, 6,000, however many tickets. We sold out within the first hour, and I didn't have enough money to put on the show. Our pay-per-views were successful enough that we did 3 the first year, 1997, 4 in 1998, 6 in 1999, and they ordered 7 in 2000. It's $250,000 just for the satellite truck and the satellite feed. So the production on a pay-per-view show back then was at least $250,000 and all in close to $500,000.
That's crazy. That's really crazy to hear.
And we didn't have it. We couldn't clear payroll at the time. How am I going to put on that show? Meanwhile, I've sold 6,000 tickets in Los Angeles, but I can't get that money till after the show because Ticketmaster holds it on till the show is over. Holds on to it till the show is over. I had a meeting with Vince. I looked at him straight in the face and I said, I can't put on this show. If I can't put on the show, I'm going to be in breach of my contract with In Demand. They're going to pull my pay-per-views, which means then we're dead in the water. I'll end up in bankruptcy and you'll be dealing with a trustee. Or you can loan me the money.
And you had a good relationship with Vince at the time.
Excellent. I had a great relationship with Vince until I went to work for him. Then he had me, and that's when we started butting heads. And I can't complain ultimately with my run with Vince McMahon. But at first, wow, was it a difference in working for him instead of being on the outside and working with him. Went to Vince, explained it to him. He looked, he said, well, you need $500,000. Yes. And to his credit, for his shareholders, he said, well, I'll need a UCC1, which means he stands in front of all the other creditors, which means if we were to go into bankruptcy, the trustee would not have the ability to make the claim against Vince McMahon, WWE, TNN, et cetera, because I've signed that away with the loan. So he settles a case before it's ever filed for $500,000. That $500,000 bought us another 7 months of being alive because we weren't going to survive that July without that $500,000. The secured priority loan for $500,000. At the very end, Christmas week 2000, when everything was dire, we had lost TNN. The money is now trickling in from In Demand. Now In Demand wants 8 pay-per-views in 2001. We don't even have national television.
That's all the fact that they're in demand, but they're asking for more pay-per-views, but you have no TV to even air your weekly television. Interesting.
WWE says, let's look at the books. Because Shane wanted to buy it. So
this is the first, to my knowledge, this is the first time this has actually come out that Shane wanted to buy ECW. It might not have a bunch of legs to it, but this is actually interesting to hear. And you'll hear Paul continue to talk about it for a second.
To buy ECW and run it on its own. Vince said, it's easier just to let it go into bankruptcy, and we get Heyman. Shane still pushed and pushed and pushed. So for the accountants to take a look at all the books and to buy us the time not to be pulled into an involuntary bankruptcy by somebody, we will own $83,500 to make payroll that week so that we can survive the week for WWE to look at the books. And those were the 3 payments, the $1,000 per week every week through bankruptcy, the $500,000 loan in July 2000, the $83,000, I think it was that, $83,000 or $88,500 in December 2000. There was no other payments made by WWE. There was no other secret funding. And this is all a matter of public record because WWE was a publicly traded company by this time. And it's all there. And it's all in the bankruptcy papers. But never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Why didn't Shane end up buying ECW?
Vince found it more valuable to have me in the, as Vince would say, I'd rather have Paul Heyman in the castle pissing out than out of the castle pissing in.
So at that point in time, it'll be very interesting to think about what ECW would look like ran by Shane McMahon. And, well, I guess Paul, who knows? Paul might still be in charge of it, but with some influence from Shane, it's interesting to see what ECW ran by Shane McMahon as the owner would actually look like. And what Paul's saying is right. To Vince, ECW was nothing to him, but to have Paul Heyman as an ally was way more valuable than actually having ECW as another brand.
It's the same move that Apple made in buying Beats. Apple didn't need Beats. Apple wanted Jimmy Iovine. Vince McMahon was tired of me being out on my own, being an independent, doing my own thing, decided we need Heyman and wanted Heyman involved. And to get Heyman, you had to at least secure the assets of ECW or promise the bankruptcy court to secure the assets of ECW so that there's a curator for our library. And along with that comes Paul Heyman.
I grew up as a huge ECW fan. I was so used to seeing you with a ponytail. What's the story behind?
All right, so that was Paul Heyman discussing how WWE was not secretly lending him any money, and how Shane McMahon almost wanted to buy the company, but would not eventually buy the company, and they would close their doors, and Paul Heyman would debut as a commentator on WWE, and would be proved to be more valuable to Vince McMahon. Let me know what you got. More viable. He will be more of a help to Vince McMahon as being a part of the company than being not a part of the company. So let me know what you guys think about in the comments about Shane McMahon almost buying WCW. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. All right. In 2006, WWE would rebrand ECW, and Paul Heyman would be the face of it. And Paul Heyman, he also would eventually not last to the end of the year as well. So let's hear Paul Heyman discuss. Let's try it again.
www.wrestlinginsider.com/Chris and use the code Chris for 20% off.
Earlier,
All right. In 2006, WWE would relaunch ECW. In 2006, WWE would relaunch ECW, and Paul Heyman would also return and be the head of it. But he would not last to the end of he would last to the end of the year, and he would return to Chris Van Vliet and discuss what happened in 2006 with WWE ECW. Fair use.
you mentioned working with Vince McMahon. What's the story behind you leaving WWE in 2006? What led to that?
We had very different visions for the rebirth of ECW. And I was a lead writer of the third show, Raw, SmackDown, ECW. And he was the chairman of the board with 85% of the voting stock. One of us had to leave. Don't know if you're a betting man. Polymarket, BetMGM, DraftKings, FanDuel, whoever wants to sponsor this.
My bookie.
If you're going to place a bet on which one of us was going to leave, I think the Jew boy from the Bronx, who's just merely the lead writer of the third show, is going to be the one whose ass is out the door, not the chairman of the board with 85% of the voting stock.
What led to that? What led to just the relationship falling apart?
The rebirth of ECW. It was...
But One Night Stand went so well.
Right, because it was a one-night stand. And One Night Stand 2005 was a magnificent event that was as authentic an ECW presentation as we could put on in 2005, including, but not limited to, but certainly highlighted by the Sandman's entrance, which I fought for to the point of almost getting fired.
Because Vince didn't want to pay for Metallica?
Right. And
what's Sandman going to come out to? Come on.
But when that music hit, everyone at the Hammerstein Ballroom knew, wow, this is a real ECW show. This is how it felt back in the 90s and in 2000. 2006, I thought, was a B- show that had a main event that was so memorable that the audience made such a spectacle of Rob Van Dam versus John Cena. Because in ECW, Rob Van Dam never had a world title shot.
So Heyman's right when it comes to One Night Stand 05 and 06. 05 was definitely 100% ECW. And 2006, that was about to be the relaunch of it. And there are WWE guys all over this. And it was also kind of deemed like WWE versus ECW throughout the night. And Joey Styles on that show in the opening match with Randy Orton and Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle was the ECW guy at the time, had been handpicked by Paul Heyman to be an ECW guy, but he is a WWE guy. That's your opening match for One Night Stand 06. Two WWE guys. And Joey Styles had a line in that show when Randy Orton's coming out. He's like, he's a superstar. He's a superstar. You know, so the 2005 show, it didn't have any current WWE guys who didn't have any affiliation with ECW in it at all. Let's run down this card. Let's run down this card. So in 2005, we had Lance Storm and Chris Jericho. That was the opener. Super Crazy defeated Tajiri and Little Guido. Rey Mysterio beat Psychosis. Sabu defeated Rhino. Chris Benoit defeated Eddie Guerrero. Mike Awesome defeated Masato Tanaka. In the main event, the Dudleys defeated Tommy Dreamer and Sandman. Now, let's go to 06. 06, on the pre-show, Taz beat King by submission. And in the opening show for the main card, Kurt Angle defeated Randy Orton, as I said. Also, we had ECW guys, FBI, Little Guido and Tony Mamaluke. They defeated Tajiri and Super Crazy. Rey Mysterio, who was the World Heavyweight Champion at the time, defeated Sabu. And WWE guys right here, Edge, Mick Foley, and Lita, they take on Terry Funk, Dreamer, and Beulah McGillicuddy. And Baltimore Mahoney defeated Masato Tanaka. And in the main event, RVD would defeat John Cena. But as you can see here, a lot of WWE crumbs in here, a lot of top WWE stars. And this was also a point to launch the new ECW, unlike 2005, which was supposed to just be pretty much just a one-night stand, all puns intended. Let's continue.
23 months as the world TV champion. And for most of those 23 months, the world TV title meant as much, if not more, than the world title, because it was held by Rob Van Dam and pushed in that fashion. But Rob Van Dam finally going for the big title against John Cena, who was the antithesis of what an ECW fan thought should be a performer on an ECW show. And the main event was so memorable for the audience's reaction. The character of the audience was the star of that show. And the fact that Rob Van Dam won made that show popular, acceptable, beloved. And coming out of that, had we presented somewhat of a new style, a progressive, innovative approach to professional wrestling in 2006 that was a genuine alternative to anything WWE was offering at the time on Raw or SmackDown, it could have been a hit. But instead, it just became a third brand, utilizing stars off of Raw and SmackDown. First move I made in the new ECW, I brought CM Punk up from OVW. I wanted Rob Van Dam to be the legend from the original crew, and then you sprinkle in all these other ECW originals as we move the new stars up into the spotlight of what would become a new version of ECW, which was, at its worst, a complete alternative to anything else that's out there.
The problem was it was just CM Punk. There was really nobody else new that would actually kind of have anybody grasp onto. It was CM Punk, and that was it.
And instead, that it was not what WWE was willing to put on the air, and was amongst the most miserable experiences of my entire life, because it became very personal between me and Vince very fast, because I spent 7.5 years of my life building a brand that at some point became more of a cause than a business.
Sure, to this day, people still chant ECW.
So when you give your life to the cause, you give 7.5 years, and these are prime years too.
How much were you sleeping then?
2 hours a night. But I didn't want to sleep then.
Yeah.
I was too exhilarated.
Yeah.
It was the worst day of my life in ECW was still a wonderful day.
Yeah.
I was living out a dream and fighting for my life doing it, and knowing that I'm fighting for a cause that I believed in. So no one drank the Kool-Aid of the cult of ECW more than Paul Heyman did. So I gave 7.5 years of my life to that cult, to that cause, to that mindset, and to Vince, because he was bored with no competition. WCW was gone, ECW was gone, TNA was nothing in terms of capturing Vince's attention. So what did Vince McMahon get to do? Oh, damn it, I get to change an ECW booking on Paul Heyman. It's the power. It's how Vince operates. And And so it became a very personal tug of war between whose vision will be implemented for ECW, when the whole dynamic was, let's create a third brand that's a true alternative to the other two. So it just became a miserable working environment. And
what was the breaking point?
The breaking point was a week after we started, and I couldn't take it anymore then, and still had to last another 6 months in the job. The breaking point was the December to Dismember.
December to Dismember is notoriously known as the worst pay-per-view of all time. This pay-per-view is so bad that they only advertised 2 matches. Leading into the pay-per-view, yes, they advertised 2 matches. They had to bring the Hardys versus Eminem to December to Dismember. These are not ECW guys. These are WWE main roster guys, Raw and SmackDown guys. And they were promoting the Extreme Elimination Chamber. Let's go down this card. So the Hardys against Eminem, that's the opener. And this is exactly why they're not promoting. Like, I am not joking. They did not promote anything else except these 2 matches. When I was a big DVD collector, and when I bought the DVD, the matches, other than the 2 main ones, aren't listed either. And so after the Hardys and Eminem, it's Balls Mahoney against Matt Striker. Elijah Burke and Sylvester Turkai take on the FBI. Daivari against Tommy Dreamer. Kevin Thorne and Ariel against Mike Knox and Kelly Kelly. And then the Extreme Elimination Chamber. Paul had every reason to be at his breaking point, especially because he lost Kurt Angle in the summer. Big Show was brought over to be his ECW World Champion. And also, WWE, they would bring Bobby Lashley over to ECW. Also a WWE guy, not an ECW guy. You'll hear Paul Heyman discuss what he wanted to do in his plans with the new ECW at December to Dismember.
Coming off the Survivor Series, it was obvious to me that CM Punk was embedded in the zeitgeist of the mindset of the audience in WWE of who is the next big star. He captured the imagination of the WWE crowd. And if we could get the title onto Punk and put Van Dam on the chase, we were getting Bobby Lashley. Put Bobby Lashley on the chase, and the rest of the characters in ECW would rise with the tide as the hottest sensation in WWE. CM Punk is our champion. Rob Van Dam, who would still be more popular than Punk in the moment, going after the title. Bobby Lashley being anointed as the next big star coming off of SmackDown, and changing his style to a more MMA-based style. Wow. We could have really taken this to where by Mania, ECW would have been red hot. And instead, because I was so infatuated with the idea of an ECW with CM Punk as the champion and Rob Van Dam on the chase and Bobby Lashley on the chase, that Vince said, no, I want the title on Bobby Lashley, and we're going to beat CM Punk first in the Elimination Chamber, and we're going to beat Van Dam second in the Elimination Chamber, which was a matter of spite.
Just taking your guys out.
And once we get to that now I'm affecting everybody else's career, number one. Number two, I'm affecting the audience having a chance to like the product, because the product is being sabotaged by the very person who wants something out of the product for it to be profitable, but he can't get out of his own way in terms of competing with me behind the scenes for the decisions that are being made on a product that is still associated with me instead of with him. So just the clash between the two of us became just a god-awful, miserable experience that one of us had to escape, and he wasn't going anywhere.
Was there ever talk in 2006 of you working with TNA behind the scenes?
All right, so that was Paul Heyman on his WWE run in 2000. Why he left WWE in 2006 and what went wrong with WWE ECW. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know what you guys think about Heyman's story, and let me know if you guys were WWE ECW fans. All right, that's trash.
To FCW.
All right. So, if you guys don't remember, our beloved New Day, one of the greatest tag teams in WWE history, they were not always super over. They were a tag team that was struggling to find their way. And this is what Big E had to say about the original plans for the New Day. Fair use.
And he would cut these promos for Dusty we would usually have these hard outs. You have a minute. Maybe he lets you give a minute and a half. Alex Riley and Abe Washington were the two guys who had an exception to just go. Because those guys, and people didn't get to see the best of Alex Riley as a promo either. The dude was just incredible. On the
Alex Riley was
Abe
awesome.
Also just a masterful talker. But so we were in FCW. It was me. Byron Saxton was still an active wrestler at the time. It was me, Saxton, Woods, and Abe. And Abe was kind of we all talked, but Abe was kind of positioned as the leader. And we had this group that we initially called, and Abe was very much someone who, unfortunately, liked to push the envelope a little bit too much. I'm not going to talk about the reason he got fired. It's pretty, you can look that up. But he's someone who.
All right. So if anybody doesn't know, this is who Abraham Washington is. He had a very short stint on television in WWE, and on his main, if you guys remember his ECW talk show that Big E will discuss, Abraham Washington, he would come up on the main roster as a manager for Primo and Epico originally, and Rosa Mendez, and then he would turn on them and he would become the manager of the Primetime Players, Titus O'Neil and Darren Young. And if you do not know what he got fired for, this is the notorious joke that got him fired. Abraham Washington, he will have a live mic when he will be managing the Primetime Players, and this is what he said that got him cut.
Ryan at the hotel in Colorado. He's unstoppable.
That's what got him the axe. So let's continue with Big E.
Always like to kind of to put his foot over the line and see how far we could push things. We originally called the group the Klan, and it was supposed to be, and it stood for like Citizens Liberation of American Nationalists. It was supposed to be this militant black group, much in the vein of the Nation of Domination. We all, grew up loving the nation, and we wanted to do something in that vein. That group initially, it was initially the Klan, then we became the Plan because the office said we're not doing that. So it was we exchanged citizens for peoples. So that was it, and we came out in white and red. So that very first suit that you see Woods come out in, that was like his old stuff from when we were pitching the Plan in FCW. So we never got to do that on FCW TV. We did a few weeks of that. And then eventually the office in FCW said, it's dead. You guys can't do this anymore. Move on. But Woods at the time, so he talks about having the worst debut of all time because he comes up as R-Truth's friend on the main roster. And almost right away,
when Woods debuted, he did debut as R-Truth's friend, and also he would debut with Truth taking out Brodus Clay and dancing with the Funkadactyls, Cameron and Naomi.
he's kind of getting squashed, but he comes up to me. It was Extreme Rules of 2014, and he and Truth had a handicap match with Rusev. They both get killed. Really, Woods gets killed within, I feel like, a few seconds, and he was done for. And then Truth gets squashed right after. That same day, I dropped the IC title to Bad News Barrett, who was red hot at the time. And the death knell, I think, as a babyface, is when you go out there. The worst thing is when they don't care at all. But to have fans, when I'm blowing my comeback and they're booing everything. They don't want to see me. I wouldn't want to see me. I was also very boring. Character was kind of dead in the water. Barrett was a lot of fun. So that same day, Woods is dead in the water. I'm dead in the water. Kofi's a guy who has had, he's already, 6 years into his main roster run, already a guy is going to be good, but kind of just seen as, by the office, as a good hand. And
Kofi got a lot pretty quickly. Kofi, I believe his first night on the main roster, not the ECW roster, but the Raw SmackDown roster, I believe he beat Sheamus for the U.S. title. I'm almost positive. He's also the Intercontinental Champion fairly quickly and Tag Team Champion along with CM Punk, and later on with R-Truth and Evan Bourne as Air Boom. But Kofi got a lot early in his career. Also, the infamous 2009 main event feud with Randy Orton. But Kofi, around that time, he really wasn't doing nothing at all. And he seemed like he had been there forever because he had accomplished a lot during that time.
And so we kind of get to Kofi later, but Woods goes in and pitches the writers that day, pitches them this idea of doing a new Nation of Domination. They essentially laugh him out of the room. And he comes up to me after my match. I dropped the title and he said, "Hey, what do you think about starting this group? Kind of similar to what we did in FCW." And I said, I got nothing else, man. And I always respected Woods as someone who was a very, very creative guy, just someone who just always pitching, always thinking outside the box. So I thought, man, you know what? He's someone who I think has a ton of ideas. Let's give it a shot. And honestly, like that same day, I was told by Creative, I was told by Road Dogg, look, we like you, but we got nothing for you. Essentially, we need you to go into pre-tapes and just try stuff. And I went into pre-tapes that same day after, I don't know if it was before or after talking to Woods, and we just tried stuff and just tried a bunch of deliveries. And actually, the last thing I ended up trying was, like, I grew up in the church. I grew up actually doing some preaching as a teenager myself in my dad's church. So that oratory style was always very natural for me. And I never wanted to do anything sacrilegious or blasphemous. So I always kind of avoided that. But I just thought, you know what? I think there could be a way to do this in a way that's not offensive to people who believe or Christians. Like I'm not trying to do anything that upsets people. So I just I went into pre-tapes and started doing next week. I am about to grab the time, just going in. And for me, I feel like I can just riff and just do it. And the great thing with that delivery is it's always easy if you lose your place. It's always, I said, it's very easy to have a moment to repeat and give yourself a moment to come up with something. So that style of promo and delivery was something very natural for me. And so just knowing that the office really had nothing for me, that Woods was in need of something, I just said, let's do this, man. Let's give it a shot. And Woods first came up with the idea of adding Kofi. And I love Kofi. We interacted a little bit in, like, we all trained at, he and I both trained still at Cena's gym. So I'd see him in Tampa from time to time. But my fear is they would never let him turn heel. And I thought for us to work as a group, we needed to be heels. So from there, we eventually, I don't know if I fought it as much. I was just like, I don't know. But eventually, I get on board and I say, okay, let's talk to Kofi. And interestingly, like Kofi at the time was kind of not really having the best time wrestling. And it was interesting. Like he was thinking, maybe I want to retire early. Maybe I want to be done. I feel like I've kind of hit my glass ceiling. I think I'm good. But eventually we were kind of floored with how excited he was at the idea. and he was in. So we just kind of went from there, and we ended up spending months and months pitching that militant group. We actually got to be on TV. We were in South Florida when Woods comes out in that white and red suit and tells us we're no longer going to be glad handing and kissing babies and shaking hands, and we're going to take what we want. And we did that for about a week. That idea was shelved, and then we had to go back to repitching. But eventually we got to be the New Day that people knew and loved. But it was months and months and months of pitching of, the three of us were on house shows together. We didn't have a name, but we got to work on a chemistry. But we very quickly realized we have something here. We see the business the same. We want the same for each other. We never wanted one leader. We always liked the idea of all three of us being viewed in the same plane. And we just had so much fun together. So we knew, this idea, it's worth dying on this hill for, because we all were we were all searching for something. And we also have to give a ton of credit for Mike Notarelli, who now he writes on Tulsa King. He wrote for The Resident, for Fox. He's just doing a bunch of incredible things out in Hollywood. But he was our writer in WWE at the time. And the way he fought for us in those meetings and really was our voice. He was our ear in those meetings. If it wasn't for him, we never would have gotten off the ground.
All right. So that was Big E on the original plans for the New Day. Now, if you guys don't remember, this is what the New Day originally was. As you'll see here, you'll see Woods. Hold on one second. You guys, you'll see Woods in the microphone, and then you'll also see Big E here with the choir in the background. And then there's also another picture. There's a picture of Kofi, if I can find it. But this was not it. And I remember going to the Royal Rumble in 2015, and they had a match. Nobody was feeling it. Nobody was fans at all. It took months. And eventually they would put the tag titles on the Undefeated Cesaro and Tyson Kidd at Extreme Rules in 2014. And after that, that's when they pretty much got their momentum, and then would by SummerSlam become the most popular act in wrestling. So let me know what you guys think about the original plans for the New Day. Do you guys remember what they were doing before they became the most popular thing in WWE? Did you like Big E's story? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. All right, last story. All right, image file. Where are we at here? All right. Will Bayley be all elite? Last week, Mercedes Moné, she posted to her Instagram story this graphic of Bayley with some editing by me, but she posted this video, this image saying, put my banner up. That's what I got. Will Bayley be all elite? Last week, Mercedes Moné, she posted this to her Instagram story, and it's a picture of her at Wrestle Dream with Bayley with her name, Davina Rose, which is her independent wrestling name. And it got the internet speculating what will be going on with Bayley and what is Bayley's contract status. And Bayley's contract status is that her contract is still up to sometime this year, and she has not there's no news about her resigning her contract. And this is giving some speculation. And if anybody's been watching WWE, you can kind of, I don't want to say you can see it, but you kind of feel a lot of frustration for Bayley. Bayley is somebody who's been a focal point in the women's division, but in the last few years, she's pretty much got the short end of the stick. She infamously had this look on her face at WrestleMania when she saw the return of Paige. A couple of years ago, she got taken out of her WrestleMania spot for Becky Lynch. So a lot of people, they feel for Bayley. And with what's happened with her and Lyra Valkyria, there seems to be an out here. If you guys are not aware, Lyra Valkyria, she did turn on Bayley after their tag team championship loss. cut a phenomenal promo. I did not know Lyra Valkyria had that in her, but she cut a phenomenal promo. Like, look at this. Like, just this look on Lyra Valkyria alone is fantastic. This was awesome. I thought this was her best promo to date. I thought it was executed very well, and it was all viable because if you guys remember, Bayley was also going through some kind of a identity crisis as well. So it was really warranted for Lyra Valkyria to actually do this. And that got people thinking, it's like, okay, well, would this feud be the thing that get Bayley out of WWE? Because one thing what WWE has done in the last few years, they will let you do a program and write you off TV and let your contract run out. And Bayley is somebody who I can actually see potentially leaving WWE, because I'm always had the mindset like, look, it's like switching teams. It's like, all right, like what else can you do here? And at this point, with all this influx of new talent, as great as Bayley has been, what else can she really do? Bayley's been at the top of the card for almost her entire run in WWE on the main roster. But what else can she actually do? Now, she can go to AEW and bring something fresh together, and her and Mercedes Moné on a different platform, they could potentially make magic happen again. One of my favorite matches is the Bash from NXT Brooklyn. They could possibly I don't think they'll recapture that magic, but I think that a feud in AEW will be warranted, and matches in AEW are warranted. And I think it will actually be something fresh for AEW as well, because Mercedes Moné will not be coming back to WWE anytime soon. But I do think the fact that Bayley and Lyra had that falling out, and Bayley's promo on Raw on Monday night saying, "Hey, I want to meet face to face with you next week," is going to be telling of how much we get from these two going forward. And I do think that this is a way for Bayley to say her goodbye in WWE by putting Lyra Valkyria over and improving Lyra Valkyria's character. So let me know what you guys think in the comments about Bayley potentially going to AEW, and also this Lyra Valkyria heel turn. Let me know what you guys think in the comment, guys. Thanks. All right, guys. So that is it for the show. So thank you for everybody for tuning in. Make sure to thumbs up, turn your post notifications, and thank you for the algorithm. I'm Aaron Lloyd, and I will see you guys soon.
Got him now, put him down right now, hit him with the palm handle. Tuning up the band, y'all don't understand. Fist of Superman, it's a SummerSlam. Here we go again. Fans marking man, I hate my balls. Shut the Vince McMahon, it ain't shake the land off the sale. Fans love it, ain't hard to tell. Talking madness, awesome. Well, what I'm cooking, man, y'all off the smell.